There is a purpose behind everything. If nature has given you the greatest happiness of touch through sex, it is only to attract you to preserve the species. Unless such a great attraction is given, the living beings can never conduct the duties of nature. Especially we the human beings,
Surtout nous, les êtres humains.
we don't care if we know that something is useful to somebody. So nature has made slaves of living beings by giving sex happiness, because nature is using us through sex act to preserve the species, whereas we are fooled to think that it is our enjoyment. A spiritualist remembers this. Not that he doesn't enjoy sex life, but he knows the purpose of it and the significance of it, and he cooperates with nature and will experience the real enjoyment of sex, whereas others experience only the excitement and not the enjoyment. There is a lot of difference.
Il y a beaucoup de différences.
Since people are confused to know the difference between excitement and enjoyment, we have so many abnormalities and monstrosities of sex among society. For example, the monstrosities like homosexualism, etc. That is a pure example of sheer ignorance. That is not knowing the purpose. He is as much ignorant as the fellow who abstains from sex life in the name of sin. So, a student of spiritualism should be trained from the parents since his childhood into proper lines of utilizing his mind and senses and body. Let the day be spent purposively. See how the real businessman spends his day. He smiles to you, he will invite you, he will offer you his car, he will take you in his aeroplane, only if he thinks that you are in a way useful to him.
No.
And the moment he understands that you are in no way useful to him, he has just no time even to smile if you smile. Excuse me if I give such examples, but it is unfortunately true. You should have the same purposiveness, but with one difference. The purposeful way of spending time should be the same between yourself and the commercial fellow. The only difference is you should be a man of heart, whereas he is a man of intellect. You should be purposeful only for the sake of compassion towards humanity. You should spend less time with the herds on the streets, so that you may have time to be more useful to them. What would have happened if Master Jwalkul came and mixed with the crowds? We would have pulled him by the collar from every side. We would have asked him how and Swamiji, how my health will be better, or Swamiji, how can I have children, or my dear master, how can I be happy, how can I stop worrying? Then the result is he is worried too much and he ceases to be Master Jwalkul. He will be one among the many fellows who are worrying on the street. And what would have become of his 30 years program of giving the books through Alice A. Bailey? No time, because we would have pulled him into the streets. We would have asked him to give discourses, just to listen and go away to forget everything. And he would have grown old and died without doing anything at all. But he is shrewd. He never allowed people know him personally. Why? He has no glamour of being called a Swamiji or a master. What if he didn't come to the university in Geneva and delivered lectures? It would have been a difficult delivery with much pains, like a cesarean delivery. He knows all these things. Real spiritualists, they are very shrewd, not because of anything, but because of their great compassion for us. What would have happened if we are deprived of one page of the so many books given through Alice Bailey? Of course, through a fellow who never reads, who purchases and puts in his library, it makes no difference.
Yes.
For a person who wants to read and put into practice, It is a great loss if the master could not have given one page of the many thousands of pages he has given out. That is how the spiritualists think about the world. We are not right in thinking that the spiritualists have no value of the world. They know the value of, whereas we are worldly wise and we don't know the value of the world, because we are busy in burning away our time and money, and we think it a great favor to the world if we meditate for 5 minutes. People shake hands and say, we are meditating for world peace. What happens if 10 fools do not meditate for world peace? Because there are real spiritualists who live underground like jewel coal, who spend their nights and days for the people, who have no personal life of their own except eating to maintain the body, drinking to supply water only to the body, not alcohol, and having garments to the body only not to be a nuisance to others, and living under false names like Krishnamacharya or Rudolph or John, instead of giving their true names to the world. They live incognito, but they live for us, and they lead a life in which they don't want anything for themselves. If there is a big business of all the books of Alice Bailey, remember neither Jewel Cole nor Alice Bailey were worried of the book business. What happened if Jewel Cole wanted to own all the book business for himself and control the millions of dollars that are gained by selling his books? We have to just have an idea of real spiritualists like that. So, they know the difference between the permanent and the temporary. Is there anyone in this world who dictates his books in the name of another fellow? If at all such a fellow exists, it is only the spiritualist, or sometimes a rogue who dictates some false books. I think you know a cook in a particular hotel, he was writing false books upon spiritualism and sending into the world in the name of spiritual novels. Unfortunately, they are also among the best sold, and he was receiving about tens of thousands of letters every day from the students of spiritualism, and replying them how to open their third eye with a pencil or a pen like that on the physical plane. And he was not known to the world for a very long time, and under a false name he was giving false books on spiritualism. And there were and there are still people who boast of calling themselves the disciples of the author of that book. But finally it was discovered that the cook collided with a book publisher and published those books under a false name called Lobsang Rampa. I think you know the story of it. And the fellow was caught under public deception, arrested, and he is kept, now he is in prison. See, either he must be such a fellow or he must be a spiritualist like Master Jewel Cole. Other people, they care only to publish their books in their own name because they love money and name, which the spiritualists know as temporary. What is it that is permanent in the eyes of the spiritualist? It is the needs of humanity. It is the welfare of humanity. They know how evolution is taking place, how they have to serve the needs of humanity according to the time. That is what is permanent in their eyes, whereas money and authorship are permanent in the eyes of others. So Patanjali warns us to know what is permanent and what is temporary, and then we are fit to be called spiritualists. We should have money and we should know the value of money, but we should be able to spend it when the real purpose is there. You know, I will tell you one of my life experiences. I was from time to time consulting a great man about my personal affairs, and he has been giving me advices. There was a proposal to start a spiritual monthly journal in our place about 25 years ago. And I was asked to be the editor of that journal. And I informed the gentleman
Son.
that I am asked to work as the editor and I am going to work. My guide said, yes, you can do. Then I entered into the affair and I have written letters to many hundreds of my friends to join as members and give monthly subscription, annual subscription for the journal. It was a thundering success. After 3 issues, the journal was stopped, and I asked my guide what I should do. He said, you asked your friends to join as the annual members. You have every duty to repay them the amount. That is what he said. I had no money with me at all. Then I asked him, you would have asked me not to work as the editor of this journal, sir. Then he said, you never asked me if you could join or not. You just informed me that you are going to join as an editor. Then I said, okay. That was his answer. And then immediately he asked me to make an account of all the money that is to be repaid to my friends. It was many thousands of rupees. And the next day he gave me the money and asked me to send it immediately. I asked him when to repay it, sir. He said, it is my money.
Il m'a répondu, c'est
I am not answerable to anyone, and you are now answerable. You have spent a money which is not yours. So rectify yourself so that you may be wiser and more practical a second time, he said. Then I asked him, suppose someone asks me to work as an editor to a spiritual journal, shall I do it or not? Then he asked me, what if you do not join as the editor? Do you believe that mankind will be at loss? Do you believe that the cause of spiritualism will go back for thousands of years? Then he revealed to me a fact. Wait until things come to you. When things come to you, you can respond in the proper way. That is what I advise you. And from today onwards, if you want anything, you ask only one person, that is myself. Don't ask for anything, anyone from today. Everything comes to you and you will be a king. If you ask anyone for anything from today onwards, you will be a beggar. That is what he said. It was about 26 years ago this happened. And till today I have no need to ask anyone for anything. So that is the value they attribute to money. And I said, shall I be indebted to you for that money? Then he said, you can tell me when you are ready to pay. Yes, after 3 years I said I was ready with my money. And then he said, where is the money? I have shown him the money. Then he said, you use it for this purpose. You get this book printed and send it to the publisher so and so. Receive the amount and then show me. I did so. Then he said, get the book printed, next one. That is how he is circulating the money he has given me. So this is what is called the money of the masters. We cannot understand how they use resources. He never received the amount from me because it is the nature of the masters only to give, not to take. But remember, it's not a complex with them. If they find it a good remedy to receive it back, they call the fellow and say, where is the money? Give it to me. I want it before such and such a day. And they give a lawyer notice to the fellow and find that the fellow is rectified in his behavior. They know everything and they are up to everything. That is how spiritualists behave. And they know the difference between the permanent and the temporary. And then the inevitable quality they prescribe for us to be a spiritualist is the capacity to excuse. Without that, no spiritualism at all. But they differentiate carefully between overlooking and excusing, overlooking, ignoring the defects. They will never ignore the defect of anyone because they are the real doctors of mankind, and if they ignore the diseases of mankind, who is there to cure? When once we offer ourselves to them mentally, submit ourselves to them voluntarily, then begins the great torture in personal matters. Until everything is clear, pain is never ameliorated. They know only cure and not subsiding any pain. They are not in the habit of using painkillers because according to their understanding, what we call pain and suffering is only a result of what we have done, and it has a rectifying value, a purifying value, and an eye-opening value. That's why nature has given us pain. That's why we are expected to pray, let pain bring due reward of light and love. We should know the real significance of the words we use in prayers and invocation. What we are expected to mean while doing a prayer, what we are expected to mean when we are doing an invocation. What should we mean by invoking something unless we know the real significance? We meet with many troubles and tortures in our life, and we foolishly attribute these things to spiritualism. We foolishly believe that a spiritualist is destined to suffer. But when we follow the injunctions and the cautions of the masters carefully, we have no business to suffer for anything at all. During my 26 or 30 years of discipleship with my master, I confess before you that I had no moment when I suffered. In fact, they treat us like flowers in their hands. I know it personally with my experience. If at all we suffer for spiritualism, we suffer for our own foolishness and idiocy and for our own faults, not for spiritualism. We are only expected to remember our responsibilities. And suppose I will invite Rodolphe and my friend B and 4 or 5 people to India to come and join me in the celebrations of the World Teacher Trust in India. Suppose I do not care to inquire where they live and how they live during those days in India. Suppose they experience some inconveniences in India. That is the thing which we ought not have done as spiritualists. We are expected to think of others at least before we think of ourselves. And in due course, as we gain confidence upon spiritualism, we will be inclined to think of others only because we have no need to think of ourselves, because people are there who are thinking of ourselves. This is how we have to behave. And if I have some irresponsibility in my behavior, I will be exposed and asked to face the situation and rectify to the depth of my conscience. That is how the spiritualists expect us to behave. And when we once submit ourselves to any one of these spiritual masters, they never spare anyone, because they have to cure and they have to leave us quite healthy in mind, body and soul. This is in short what spiritualism is and what are the obstacles on the way of spiritualism. I will continue the same topic tomorrow also, if you excuse me, because there is really something more important for me to tell you from the scriptures about the matter. So let us continue the same topic tomorrow evening also. Thank you all. Thank you all.